Dandelions are one of the most easily recognizable wildflowers. Most people consider them weeds, and if your lawn looks like this picture, often people despair. However, you have a unique opportunity to harvest these plants and make some interesting and unique foods. All parts of the dandelion are edible, and people often roast the roots to make a caffeine-free coffee and use the fresh new leaves as salad greens. Today we're going to look at using the flowers in order to make dandelion syrup. The flowers can also be used to make dandelion jellies, and both are quite delicious. You do, however, have to make sure that you are harvesting your plants where there have not been any sprays put down in order to kill off the dandelions. The ingredients list for dandelion syrup is quite short. First of all, you need 1.5 cups of dandelion flowers. This is approximately 125 to 150 flowers. You will also need 3 cups of water, 2 cups of white sugar, and 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. You should note that this recipe does have to sit in the fridge overnight, so you will need 2 days in order to complete it. When harvesting your dandelions, make sure that the heads are nice and fresh and that are not past their prime. Do not pick any that are showing any signs of wilt. If you are picking larger heads, then you will need fewer. But most times that you will find that there are some smaller dandelion flowers, and so that's the range for the 125 to 150 that are needed. After harvesting the flowers, it is recommended that you lay them out on a towel for approximately an hour to allow any bugs to crawl away. You can actually just go through them and make sure that there aren't any insects such as ants. If you wash the flowers, you risk washing away some of the pollen, which is really good for you. So that is not really recommended. The next step is to cut off the green base of the flower and to throw it away. If you recall what dandelions look like when they go to seed, there is a center that the seeds are attached to, kind of a white disc. This disc can be very bitter, and this is the part that we are going to be cutting off. There are a few ways that you can do this. The easiest I find is just to snip them off with scissors. However, I have heard of people squeezing and rolling the blossoms and cutting them off with a knife as well. The whole point, though, is to just get rid of that center disc that the seeds attach to. You can leave the bits of green flecks around the outside, however, the main part is to get the yellow flowers. As you are trimming your flowers, you can add them directly to the pot you will be using. Once you have done all your flowers, then add your 3 cups of water. Place the pot on the stove and bring it to a boil. Let the contents boil for approximately 1 full minute, and then remove from heat. Allow it to cool, and then you can either place the pot in the fridge overnight, or if you wish, you can transfer it to a container with a lid, and again, put it in the fridge overnight to steep. The next day, you will want to remove the contents from the fridge. It will need to be strained through either a fine mesh strainer or a cheesecloth over a bowl. Because I put my contents into a container, I was able to put my strainer and cloth over top of my pot. Once you have the liquid strained, if you strained it into a bowl, you'll need to transfer it into a pot, or if you put it in your pot, you're ready to put it straight onto the stove. Make sure that you have extracted as much of the liquid as you can by squeezing and pressing with the back of a spoon or squeezing out the cheesecloth. Now that we have our strained liquid into a pot, we want to add our sugar and our lemon juice. Put it on the stove and bring it to a boil, and then lower the heat and simmer uncovered for approximately an hour or until the liquid has reduced by half. You may see some froth foaming on the top of the liquid. This should be skimmed off with a spoon. Check for consistency by dipping the spoon into the syrup, letting it cool for a bit, and checking the thickness. If it is to your liking, remove the syrup from the heat. Pour the syrup into clean glass jars. Let it cool down to room temperature. Then you can store it in the fridge. It will keep in the fridge for a few months. But what if something goes wrong? In my case, I actually had the phone ring when I was making mine, and the syrup got away from me. It boiled away far too much, and I ended up with quite a vigorous boiling happening in my pan. I should have taken it off of the heat long before it reached this consistency. I was on my way to making some kind of dandelion candy. When I removed it from the heat and put it into a bottle, it started to crystallize, and by the time it had cooled, the bottle had turned into kind of a candy crunch. But this can easily be fixed as well. If your syrup crystallizes once it cools, this is easily fixed by putting it back into the saucepan. Add some more water and repeat the steps where you simmer it until it reaches the desired consistency. Don't let it boil away like happened the first time. At this point, you can then transfer it to your glass jars for storage, and they should remain nice and clear and pourable. Thanks for watching this short video on making dandelion syrup, and I hope you enjoy the fruits of your labors.